Hey, my little crafty corner friends. Thanks so much for joining me while I make this layout. So first I'm just kind of going through, and I'm going to tell you what, y'all, this took a little bit to get going, to record. It stopped on me midway. I mean, this has been a thing. So let's pray to the Lord I can get through this in one take here of my voiceover. But I'm just kind of just showing you everything that I kind of just grabbed for myself that I selected to maybe make a layout from. So what I'm doing is I'm in my Bella Grace magazine, and I'm just kind of showing you what I've got. Of course, the strawberry field ruffles, some paint strips and things like that. Of course, some water because you got to stay hydrated when crafting. Okay, so so I grabbed that 6x8 paper because I have that in there just as a background. I tend to throw those in my bundles so you can use that as a starting place, or to add it as part of your layout if you already have some paper in mind, that's fine. But I like that rainbow 6x8 paper, and so I'm just trimming down this vintage chick that's from a magazine, and just kind of deciding what I want to do, just kind of pushing things around, laying them down, auditioning, as we say, right? So I have like that guest check, that bingo card. There's a little ephemera piece, and then some scrap vellum. So I'm just trying to I guess like rip up the edges of the vellum to give it a rough texture. You know me, I like not necessarily clean lines all the time, but just some rough edges. So because it was pretty good size already, I had to kind of really get in there with my fingernails and kind of tear it. So that was a little hard. So I'm just kind of rotating it to see which way I want, because it was slightly bigger on one side, so I put that towards the corner, and then I'm just kind of grabbing some stuff, see if I want to layer, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. And then here's another little ephemera piece I'm just cutting up. It's like a 2x2 Polaroid type square. So I'm just trimming up the edges there, and still not knowing what I want to do. If I don't know what I want to do, I'll drop what I'm doing and go to something else. And sometimes that's a smart thing to do. And sometimes I just kind of keep going. So I grabbed a piece of some pink paint samples, and I'm just kind of layering that up, deciding what I want to do. Again, not sure. Do I want to add that fussy cut strawberry floral piece? Do I want to add a vintage ticket? Just kind of playing. I also sewed these little paper strips together, and was thinking about making them as like a trim somewhere on the page. And I'm telling you, I gave those things the best try I could. They didn't end up on the page, but I tried them everywhere, rotated all the ways, and it just it didn't happen. So maybe I'll use them on another one. But I'm just still kind of figuring out. I have that cute like strawberry parfait that I cut out from a magazine. I was like, do I want to make it like a food thing, or do I want to make a strawberry layout that doesn't necessarily have to have strawberries on it? Like, I'm trying to decide. You can see me thinking through my fingers there, apparently. Gets my thinking cap going. So I'm just kind of, deciding what I want to do. Still figuring it out. I grabbed some pieces of ephemera from my stash to the left. I have like a box of some ephemeras pieces, and I decided to go with this piece of book paper. It's just like a scrap. And you can see I'm adding stuff to it. There's a little vintage, market sign, I guess, for whatever was 9 cents. I mean, can we go back to those prices? That would be great. And again, I'm still not sure. I'm not liking how that is. So there's one of the strawberry ruffles, and I'm thinking about adding that one. And then it's a matter of where. So again, just trying to figure it out. There come those paper strips. I mean, they're going to come out like 10 million times. And then there's a piece of scrap paper. I think it's October afternoon. It's some clouds. If you hear some clickety clacking, it's my dog on the tile. Sorry about that. So again, back to this paint strip and the paper and figuring out what I want to do, which way I want to go. So again, see, can figure it out, go to something else until it just works, you know? And even then, it's still not always 100%. So at this point, I'm really liking that strawberry fussy cut. I fussy cut it with my scissors, and then I used an X-Acto knife to cut out the background pattern in between the leaves and the strawberries and stuff. So it was really a delicate piece. Really, I had to be really careful with it. And sometimes I'll fussy cut that far, and sometimes I just won't, and I'll leave the insides, it just the guts of it, I guess you could say. But I decided to fussy cut a little bit more because I really wanted to, whatever ruffle I used, I really wanted to be able to see it. But honestly, either way is fine. When you're working with your My Little Crafty Corner ruffles, don't stress it if you're putting ephemera on top of it. Whatever works for you, right? It just depends on the layout. I feel like the layouts speak to us and they tell us how they want to be. So I'm playing around with that vintage girl, and she had like cute strawberry. It just reminded me of strawberry. The pattern on her dress was like polka dots, which I don't know if anybody else feels that way about little like polka dots or anything, but I could imagine that dress being maybe like a red with white polka dots or something. So I'm going through and I'm grabbing the strawberry that I fussy cut, that piece, and trying to see where it pops the best. Like that looks nice with the red, but then the strawberries get lost. And then I like the green, but I felt like it was too bright for that piece of ephemera. And I liked the soft blue of this ruffle, and it picked up the white little strawberry flowers that were in the ephemera piece there that I fussy cut and in the ruffle itself. So that's what I ended up going with. So then I have that strip of October afternoon paper from my stash that I was trying to decide where I wanted to put it. I mean, it made sense to go with the rainbow because, rainbows are in the sky, but I keep kind of like those other paper strips. I kind of just trying to figure out where I want it and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So then I decided I liked it on the left there. And here we go. One more time. Let's give it a go. Let's try it out. I felt like it was too much of a contrast. And so what those strips are is like a green strip, some leaves, and then some strawberry pattern that I had sewn together on my sewing machine. And I thought I would be able to use it, but I couldn't do it. So now I'm going to go and, type on my typewriter and talk about strawberries and all that sort of thing. But I cut that out of the video because nobody wants to wait around for the time for me to do that. So I was just talking about how much I love strawberries and like now's the time for them to go in my salads. This is definitely a salad time because it gets so hot here in Arizona. So the last thing you want to do is to eat like hot, heavy food. So salads are really great. And I love strawberries and some blueberries and some apples on there with some onions and, like vinaigrettes and stuff. Like it's a real hearty salad, maybe with some almonds and stuff. And now I'm getting hungry for that. But anyways, so I'm just adding some double-sided tape. That is my go-to. I really, really like it. I have, so many rolls, and I just buy them either off Amazon or scrapbook.com. And then I have a piece of the scrap paper that I was going to adhere down, and then I don't know, I didn't give myself enough room, so I had to tear it down and just kind of tuck it in, right? You think it's more, but it's really not. All you need is a little bit just to make it look like you've added a lot of paper and layers and things like that. You're just kind of really just tucking and filling in some space. So I added that, and then I'm thinking, okay, let's figure out what we're doing here. So Fabrifix, Fabri-Tac, I think they're like the same, one and the same. Those are my favorite. And I'm grabbing my foam roller. Foam roll, a double-sided 3M tape. I get that at on Amazon as well. And I like to put some foam tape down first because that'll help straighten the ruffle, so to speak. And with Fabri-Tac, sometimes you have to be careful because it will see through. Like you can see the glue even after it dries. So this is a great way to not see it and to have it adhere really well. So just laying that down, again, covering the last 2 layers, like the seam, you know what I mean? I like to cover seams a little bit. That's kind of my thing. And then I also, of course, I'm going to do some threads. So that's what I put on the left there is some threads. I'm pulling them out because I want them to definitely match on this one. So I'm going to get some greens and some whites and some reds, and I think maybe a light blue. I can't remember. And I think some yellow too to pull off of that ruffle. So some are vintage, some are just ones that I just picked up at Joann. And I'm just kind of layering them up and just, 3 or 4 strands per color. It just depends, right? I decide on how much to do depending on how big the piece is, how long it is, how wide it is, or whatever, right? Because sometimes I'll mix it together. Sometimes I'll leave it just layered on top of itself and just slightly like tweak it or whatever. This thread is so much fun. It's like a iridescent, it's very plasticky, nylon-y, but I love it because it's like the equivalent of glitter in a thread. Like it's just shiny. It's super cool. I love it. So now I'm adding some minty blue, not minty blue, I think more like a light blue, and I was kind of pointing to the ruffle so you could see what I was going with and why. So now this is the hard part, right? You see all the little pieces. So I'm talking about the thread and what I picked the colors for, or my hands are. I was doing my best Vanna White. And I'm just kind of pulling the colors and the threads together, kind of like mixing them. You know how you like knead your dough? That's kind of what I'm doing. And I'm just stretching it out so that it'll be seen from all parts of the under the ephemera, like in the center, which is why I chose to cut it out. On the top, on the side, just kind of like it's spilling out, you know what I mean? So I also added a lot of foam tape. I cut it down to the size of the leaves and the strawberries and the little flowers, again, because you don't want it to show, but you need it to have some dimension. Again, that's how you get it thicker, and that's also how it'll adhere very nicely to the ruffle and the threads and everything. So I'm just taking some time. Make sure you don't stick to the double-sided foam tape because you might accidentally tear your piece because it's so delicate. I've done that before and it's fine. Just kind of glue it back together and move on. But I really wanted to be careful with this piece because it was really delicate. So I'm just getting my Fabrifix and putting it wherever my double-sided foam tape is, and just putting that on. You have a little bit of time for this, but if you move it, you can see it. It's clear, but it'll dry glossy. Like if you have it on paper or something, it'll show for the most part if you move it. But otherwise, if you put it on there and leave it, you're fine. No issue. And then, so once I place it, I want to make sure it's good. I usually grab something heavy. I think I'm grabbing my Tim Holtz, my tiny attacher, and just placing that on there to give it some weight for a little bit so it adheres to the fabric. And then I have my vintage girl that I had, layered her onto some book page as well, just to kind of give her some, like a landing spot, so to speak. And then I'm just going to tuck her in under that ruffle, under the strawberries, under the thread, just kind of like she's just poking out, being cute. Like, look how cute she is right there. She's just like, hey. So now I'm just going to layer up some like labels and a vintage ticket, and I'm giving the ticket some texture by just stapling it itself. Since I've already adhered the label down, I could have done it to the label, but I didn't think about that. So I went ahead and stapled it itself. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to adhere those leaves that I cut out. And I was going to do the Fabrifix, but I was like, no, that's too heavy. I don't want to do that. And then I couldn't find my glossy accents. And so here we are. We're going to use double-sided tape. And I only put it on a couple leaves because it's such a delicate piece. I didn't want to chance it getting stuck to my finger and ripping. And then there's all the time you spent, right, on fussy cutting and then all that. So I just added a couple. It's fine. It'll be tucked away, and it'll adhere very well because it's going to stick to that book paper and that vintage image, so it should be just fine. So then I'm going to add some double-sided tape to this ticket, and just kind of layer that on top of that label. Cover her feet. I couldn't decide if I wanted to layer it on the bottom, layer it on the top. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And now that I'm looking at it, I like it on the bottom. I should have... Did I do it there? Oh, good, I did. It's been a while since I've made this layout, so I'm trying to remember. So then I just have that little ticket, that faux vintage ticket, and I'm just tearing it again because you don't need the whole thing. You can save the other piece for another layout, or you can toss it, whatever you want to do. And I'm just going to adhere that again and layer it under that image of the girl, right, and under the leaf and all that, just creating layers. And then, so now I have this like resin strawberry, and I don't have my glossy accents, so I'm just using some double-sided tape for now, just for the process video, but I am going to go back and, look for the right glue. Glossy accents works pretty well, and I could adhere that down. So now I want to do the left-hand side. And earlier I didn't show, I had a vintage strawberry stamp. So I was trying to figure out where I wanted to tuck it in. And I'm trying all the places. I'm trying so hard, just kind of like the paper strips. I just really wanted to get that in there. So I'm going back to that October afternoon piece of paper, and I'm just going to adhere that down and start layering on the left side with my journaling piece that I typed up on my vintage typewriter, and some paint strips and a bingo paper card and some other ephemera in my stash. And I'm just still kind of lightly figuring it out because, like I said, since my video initially had died, the camera died, I was able to come back to it and go, okay, how do I want to do the left side? And so I'm just kind of redoing how I initially thought I wanted to do it. And of course things move slightly, but I'm okay with it. So again, I'm just kind of covering up what I would consider like seams, right? Like the blue sky paper is like the main seam, and it kind of just, I don't know, for me it helps with the layering and how aesthetically how it looks. So I'm adding that little ephemera piece, and I think I sewed on top of it, sewed the vellum to the ephemera piece, and then I'm putting this square onto the fabric. Oh, yeah, that's right. I roughed up the edges because, again, sometimes I like a little more texture, and I'm just roughing it up with my scissors. You can do it with your fingers, whatever works. Just be careful if you're using your scissors. But I wanted to rough up this piece of ephemera that I had sewn, that vellum typed up, description. My dog apparently is not amused. I don't know if you heard her grunting. So that piece right there is it's like this sparkly leatherette type of fabric, and I've I've shared it a couple times in some bundles. And I was kind of stumped too on how to use it, and I decided to cut it down and treat it as like faux washi tape, right? Like it's just sparkly washi tape. So I cut a strip of it, and I'll adhere it later, you'll see. And I kind of rushed through it because at this point, again, my camera was gonna die, and I was like, what is going on? I had too much data, apparently, too many photos. You know how that is. So I'm just tucking stuff in and deciding where I want things to go. So I'll be adding that little fabric sparkly piece later. And again, just tearing up some more stuff because that's what I do, and trying to figure out where I want to tuck and adhere things. So I like that green. It pulls out the green that's on the other side of the page, kind of balances it out. And I'm just tucking it again, trying to cover those seams. So this time I'm covering no, I don't cover it yet. I will be covering here with some of the other layers. But again, I'm just adding layers and adding that 2x2 square. What else am I doing? Thinking about layering even on that. And then I just liked how simple that little stamp, that vintage strawberry stamp was. So I just stapled that on, again, covering those layers. So I'm using that ticket. And depending on your paper, that double-sided tape, you can lift it up and sometimes it adheres, and when it's down, it's down. So like for the bingo paper and the guest checks, since it's so not a shiny type of paper, not glossy at all, it's definitely like once it's down, it's down. So you got to make sure. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that when you're doing your layouts. But so I'm just again kind of covering the seam between the bingo card and the guest check and putting that there. And it's kind of boxy and square on the left. And sometimes you like how things come out and sometimes you don't. So I really like the right side. The left side I was not too in love with. Oh, it did come up. Nice. But, not everything is 100. We can't always make it work. And that's okay. So again, I'm just kind of moving things around, deciding where I want that ticket. I end up actually cutting it in half because I wanted that yellow to spread a little bit, to appear to be, bigger than it was. And it carries the yellow over from the rainbow and the flowers and the thread as well. So, I kind of got all the colors on the left, all the colors on the right, and just to make it look a little cohesive. So I'm just adding some Fabrifix again to that sparkly piece of fabric, like I was saying, and trying to get this all in before my camera died. And you'll see a couple still shots here of how it looks. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped you figure out how to use some of my ruffles that are in the shop right now. And check me out on Instagram. Be sure to like, and if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks so much, guys.